Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best sword bard build guide for in Baldur's Gate 3. So I'm actually be showing you two extremely powerful builds here. They're both fantastic, but we're going to start off with the bard here itself. So the bard has a pretty strong start. In all honesty, the bard is a really great class in general, but Baldur's Gate 3 really did buff up the bard. They made it a full spellcaster, and the sword bard gets the extra attack, so it's actually extremely strong. As for our cantrips, I think that Vicious Mockery is just a fun one to use. It has your character yelling insults. Now, as for the second one, if you're the face of the party, Friends is a pretty good one. Be mindful on harder difficulties that this will, when the 10 turns wears off, the enemy or the target may become hostile towards you. I am a huge fan of Minor Illusion, though. You can use this to steal from enemies. It's going to group enemies together, so if you wanted to drop a fireball or something. So these two work fantastic. As for our spells, I like to have Healing Word as a bonus action heal. If a teammate goes down, pick them up with that. Also, early on in the game, Sleep is extremely powerful. I don't see a lot of people liking Sleep, but you can put 3 goblins to sleep. So from levels 1 through 3, this is super useful. And even later into level 5, that's where its effectiveness caps off at. Longstrider being another really great one, but you can have a hireling or someone at your camp to apply a Longstrider to your team because it lasts until long rest. That extra 3 meters movement speed is huge. Thunderwave's pretty nice for a pushback. I don't normally take it, but on this, it's nice to have the option to push the enemy back, so we're going to go with that there. And then Dissonant Whispers can be a pretty decent one as well. This does psychic damage, which is hard to find resistances. It frightens a creature and they'll have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls, and they cannot move. So something like this looks good, but you can also take Longstrider as an option, or even Speak with Animals. That's a pretty good level 1 spell just for the options in conversation that it opens up. As for our ability score, this is going to work for both of the builds. We're going to want to have, if you're the face of the party, have your charisma at 17 and take the Hag's Hair to take it to 18. And then one of our ability improvements will be to take that up to 20. But if you're not the face of the party, leave it at 16 and then use your first ability score to bring it up to 18. We're going to pretend this is the Hag's Hair user. So next, I would recommend having 16 dexterity to start and then putting the rest of the points into constitution. So something like this is pretty solid for ability scores. Alternatively, you can go and level things out a little bit if you want a little bit more intelligence or wisdom. You could even level things off. If you have the constitution amulet, then you can really go a bit further with this and something like that. But alternatively, the stats I showed you at the start will work as well. Now, this build is extremely powerful. You can actually solo the entire game with this, and actually, you can solo the game with both of the builds that I'll be showing here. So, at level 2, we get Jack of all trades, adds half our proficiency bonus to anything we're not proficient in. Song of Rest gives us an extra short rest. This is huge. We like that, and it's great if you have a Warlock on the team. As for our next leveled spell, Tasha's Hideous Laughter is not bad. Knock a creature prone without the ability to get back up. This is a concentration, but you can have your martial classes attack it when it's downed. But Speak with Animals and Longstrider are two other really great options here of the spells that we get at level 2. So at level 3, we get some further abilities that are going to help out, but we also get the subclass, which we're obviously taking the College of Sword. Now, as for level 2 spells, Hold Person is probably the best level 2 spell that we get, and the reason for that I will get into at the end of the video, but this holds an enemy still. This can be upcast, and they can't move, act, or react. Attacks within 3 meters are always critical hits. Hold Person, if you have a high spell save DC, which I'm going to get into how we can get a high spell save DC, this can literally end encounters on turn 1. So we're going to take that. As for our subclass, obviously College of Swords, which gives us the Flourishes, which are actually really strong. So Defensive Flourish, you can start your turn off with that to give yourself +4 to armor class. That's really nice. There's also the range versions of all these. Mobile Flourish I use less often than the others, but it teleports you to the target. And then the real MVP is Slashing Flourish, allowing us to attack 2 enemies. And you can also use the Bow Slashing Flourish, which attacks 2 enemies, and you can attack the same enemy twice. It's pretty great. So we also get a fighting style. I think dueling or 2 weapons fighting just depends on. If you're going with dueling, you're going to want to have a sword and shield. If you're going 2 weapon fighting, when you make an attack with your offhand weapon, you can add your ability modifier to the damage of the attack. That's pretty nice. Typically for this build, I think it's actually better to go with dueling and wear a shield. 2 weapon fighting is nice, but we want to use our bonus action for something other than attacking. And I'll get into that because it's actually really powerful. So we're going to go with dueling for the purposes of this. The extra 2 damage is nice, and it gets added to weapons. If you attack with if you have a shield in your offhand, you still get this bonus, so that's quite nice. At level 4, we get ourselves another cantrip. Friends is okay. Mage Hand's also pretty good. I like Mage Hand because you can have it throw health potions at you. If you're desperate, you can drop it, which doesn't take an action. It can throw them for you. And it can also throw water bottles to set up like a chain lightning from a sorcerer. Now, a lot of people really like Cloud of Daggers. This is a pretty decent concentration. You can put it in a doorway. Early on, I like to have at least one person with Cloud of Daggers just for the damage that it brings. But Heat Metal is probably the best concentration early on other than Hold Person. It gives disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks, and it deals fire damage. It can be really nice. So either one of these, whatever you prefer. Knock is also pretty nice. It's basically going to open locks for you with a level 2 spell slot, which is kind of nice because sometimes it's just hard to open up, especially if you don't have a rogue on the party. This is also really great for Astarion. I have Astarion playing as a bard like this on my account, so I really like this. But this is where it gets interesting, because we can go with the dual wielder perk, which gives a +1 armor class when we're using melee weapons. But honestly, the ability improvement's kind of the good one to go with here. So ideally, we would take our charisma up to 20 with the Hag's Hair. This will increase our spells. That gives us a higher chance of landing our crowd control spells in the enemy, which is what we want. At level 3 or level 5, we get some really nice spells. Illusion being one of the best that we can get. This hits in a large cone like Cone of Cold. Targets drop everything and become fearful. They have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls. They drop their weapon, you can pick it up, and then they become useless because they are usually pretty weak without a weapon. So we're going to take that at level 3 or level 5 here. Bardic Inspiration increases to 1d8, so we get a nice little increase to our damage overall. And then at level 6, what we're going to take for the spell is Glyph of Warding. So this is almost like, it's like a trip mine. You can place it on the ground. It's a big area that you can lock down. You can choose the type of damage. So if you have a Storm Sorcerer, you can pair it with some nice lightning or cold damage, which is awesome. But you can also make a sleep glyph, which is great for crowd control. And this doesn't require concentration. This is an underrated spell. I don't see a lot of people using it or talking about it, but it's really good. Now, also at the previous level, we got the 2 attacks. So we can do flourishes to attack 4 times per turn. Now, at level 7, we get our level 4 spells. And I think that Confusion is the best one. It's an enchantment spell, confuse a group of enemies. It's like Fireball. Hits an area. For 3 turns, they attack at random, wander aimlessly, and occasionally skip their turns. Great concentration. This is actually really powerful for our build, and I'll get into why. At level 8, we get ourselves another level, I guess, here. So, as far as level 4 spells go, like, there isn't... Polymorph's okay. I like... Hypnotic Pattern can be okay as well, just not the best. I think Plant Growth is pretty good, to be honest. Quartering movement speed is huge, and it also doesn't require concentration, so you can actually set this up outside of combat, and it's a decent crowd control option. Also, we want to take our ability score of Dexterity up to 18. We're going to assume that we use the Hag's Hair and Charisma to take that to 20, so we want to take our Dexterity up a little bit higher. I will be changing armor. I just use this one because it gives better retention from what I've seen on my videos. Now, at level 9 here, we get our level 5 spells. Hold Monster. This is the GOAT. This can actually save a lot of runs. Later in Act 3, you can paralyze a creature, any creature that's not undead. So this works on even humans, so if you didn't want to use... You should use Hold Person, but Hold Monster is really powerful. Critical hits on them. Everything about it's great. At level 10, this is where we get our magical secrets, where the build really comes together. So... this is going to depend on what we do for our final 2 levels. So we're going to go to level 10 Bard, and then we're going to add in one of 2 classes, the Fighter or the Paladin. But I'll get into that in just a moment. Blade Ward or Friends, really just whatever you didn't take left of the cantrips. For our level 5 spell slot, I think that Dominate Person is another great one to have. Planar Binding or Dominate Person, so this will have a teammate. This will add them to your team, basically, for 10 turns, and they must make a Wisdom saving throw to avoid being dominated there, but both of these are great. I like them. Planar Binding might be a little bit better because we already have Hold Person. So for our magical secrets, this is where it can get interesting because we get the free selection of any spell here. Spirit Guardians being a very tempting one, but I think I'll show you the one for the Fighter and I'll show you the one for the Paladin. So Cone of Cold works really well, especially if you have a Storm Sorcerer on your team. This deals 8d8 of cold damage, which will be doubled, so 128 damage at max. and it hits in a large area. This is a really great spell, especially since we're going to be in close range, and it's going to use Charisma for our spell casting. This is a fantastic spell. It's not the absolute best, but it's pretty good. I also think Conjure Elemental is great because anytime you can add to the action economy on your team, that's always good. The less hits that you will take, your Conjure Elemental will take the hits for you, and you get an extra action out of them. Sometimes they can take out an enemy and let you go again, so that's really nice. Now, if we're going with the fighter, I would highly recommend Command. Command is an enchantment spell. Command a creature to flee, move closer, freeze, drop its weapon, or drop to the ground. So you can knock them prone with this. This can be upcast. And with the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, we can cast this as a bonus action. So we can attack, and then use our bonus action to do command, and you can upcast it to 5 or 6 people, which is extremely powerful because we can make them just walk towards you. You can make them lay on the ground. You can make them drop their weapon. If they drop their weapon, you can grab it, and then they become useless. So command, Paladins will get this. So that's what I'm saying. If you're taking the Paladin, don't take command. But if you're going with a fighter for the 2 levels, command's really good. Another good option, so these 2 are really great. Some people like Banishing Smite, but Banishing Smite, it only banishes them if they have targets with 50 health points or more can't be banished. So typically this isn't actually that powerful. You can get better usage out of some other spells. So I wouldn't fully recommend taking that. I think that there's better options out there. Fireball can be a nice one. Haste can be a nice one. Animate Dead can be pretty useful too. For the purposes of the next 2 levels, I'll take Paladin. But if you're going Fighter, take Command. So we're going to take these 2. I love Cone of Cold because if you have the ability to set up water, you can deal an incredible amount of damage. And it's just a good area of effect because the Sword Bard has area of effect crowd control. They just don't have area of effect damage like Cone of Cold would bring. Fireball's another option, but I think Cone of Cold just ends up being higher damage. And Conjure Elemental, that's just a really great spell to have. Now, as for I guess we get to add a spell here, so Persuasion, Medicine, etc. So yeah, level 10, fantastic level, we get a lot of buffs there. And now for the next levels, you can go with the level 6 spells, but there's not really that great of options in comparison if we add in the Paladin. Now, if we added in the Fighter, we get a fighting style. I would take defense to give it +1 to armor class, which is really nice. If we're going the Paladin route, that's why I want to make a kind of a guide for both of these, because they're both extremely powerful. I don't know which one I would say is stronger. Maybe the Paladin, because we can use the flourishes to smite, so that gets actually really crazy. As for the Oath that we're going to be taking, Oath of the Ancients is nice to give yourself a heal, a bonus action heal, which is good. Oath of Vengeance gives you the radiant damage, which can daze. I think Oath of the Ancients actually ends up being better. Oath of Devotion isn't really anything much. But this heal can be decent. Give yourself 9 heal and regain 9 in the next turn as well. So we'll go with that as we get ourselves at level 2, Divine Smite. So this is also, we get our fighting style, so take defense for that extra increased armor class. Always a nice thing to have. Now for our spells, this is where it gets kind of interesting because we got Command now. Command can be upcast, and we can use this as a bonus action. That's where it becomes so massive, is the bonus action usage of it. I would recommend taking the Searing, Wrathful, and Slender Smites just for the options to deal damage with it. It will use up your bonus action, so I don't recommend using these. I recommend using your Divine Smite, which you get here, which does a lot of damage, especially if you get the nice ability to flourish with it. As for our final 2 spells, Shield of Faith is not bad. I mean, just to have a concentration on +2 armor class is okay. If you don't have someone with Bless, take Bless. Compel Duel kind of sucks. Disadvantage, gives disadvantage on other targets. You can take it. Cure Wounds can be a decent one. Really, the main one is Command that we want from Paladin. The Fighter will get Action Surge, which allows it to do burst damage, whereas the Paladin gets more of a sustained damage roll. So with this armor, we have an 18 armor class. Not the best, but we're going to throw in Armor of Agility, taking that up to 25, and then throw in on a shield because we took the Dueling Feat. So armor class 28. That's pretty good. We're going to be using the Birthright Hat, so that would take our Charisma to 22 for a +6 to Charisma checks. I didn't use the Hag's Hair on Charisma on this build, but we'll just pretend. As for the rest of the gear, that Birthright +2, these items here, Cloak of Protection, Evasive Shoes, and the Ring of Protection gives the +3 to armor class. So If we even went further and took our dexterity up to 20, we would have a 29 armor class, which is fantastic. Hell Dust Gloves gives us a plus 1 to 6 fire damage on our attacks, so that could be really nice just for the increased damage that we'll be dealing. And I like the Viconia's Walking Fortress. Gain advantage on saving throws against spells. Spell attack rolls against you have disadvantage. That's always nice. Also, highly recommend. This is the way to go about this build. Put on 2 hand crossbows and arrow of many targets. Actually, for our helmet, I actually misspoke. You can go with the birthright for the increased charisma, but the Helmet of Arcane Acuity and the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel have fantastic synergy. So whenever you deal damage with a weapon attack, you gain Arcane Acuity for 2 turns. So let's just say we do Arrow of Many Targets and it hits like 6 people or 5 people, whatever. This will give us a +5 to our spell save DC. So with the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, we can cast Hold Person as a bonus action. We can cast Hold Monster. We can do Confusion. That is going to benefit from the increased spell save DC that we get. So when we go to even something like Command, where we can do like Command Grovel, which will knock him prone, we can upcast it all the way to level 6. And then we have 6 targets that we can knock on the ground. And with this, we can get our spell save DC up to 30. I think 35 is the maximum we can get with this. What's great about that is once you have an spell save DC of that, pretty much nothing in the game can resist your crowd control. So you can attack twice and then crowd control the entire group. So something like Confusion, look at the size of that. And you're not gonna miss with that, as getting that nice +10 from the Arcane Acuity can make all the difference in the world. So we end up being pretty much unstoppable. You can also use your level 6 spell if you wanted to on like I like the Fire Elemental, or the Fire Myrmidon, like just to have it, you can replenish your spell slots. The Fire Myrmidon's kind of cool. It has 123 health, but it also gets haste, so it can haste itself. 3 turns of haste, and then it also has all of its attacks, so it can actually deal a lot of damage. And that's not a concentration. We can just set that up and forget it, and then we can use something to replenish our spell slot. So that's huge. Where all of our damage is going to be coming from is Divine Smite. So what we can do is we can go ahead and go with a Slashing Flourish and then go Divine Smite. So there we go. We can Divine Smite on a Flourish. I think that this gets pretty crazy with what we can do. So yeah, again, Slashing Flourish. You can use your Fire. I don't recommend it. I recommend just using this because it won't use your bonus action. So it deals our 1d4 plus 12 piercing, plus 1d4 necrotic, 1d6 fire, and 2d8 radiant, and deals an additional 1d8 of radiant to fiends and undead. So yeah, safe to say that hits really hard. Not the 0, more like 100. It's extremely powerful, and you can do that multiple times. So this build gets crazy. I would recommend starting with like a Glyph of Warding to kind of set up outside of combat. The Glyph Detonation has some usefulness, and Sleep is good, but Lightning and Cold being the 2 like main ones that I think are like the most effective. Oh, started combat, unfortunately. But yeah, what makes this build so powerful is the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel. Hitting a creature with a weapon gives you the ability to cast Illusion or Enchantment as a bonus action, and we will never have it resisted with the amazing abilities that we have. So that is the most powerful Bard build guide for Baldur's Gate 3. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and if you found this video useful, please hit that subscribe button below, and I'll see you all in the next video.